Alrighty. Something with this one, especially with Tweeko, the code room with Tweeko, and just with the Mojo coming through it, and with the whole, the S season 2, the whole thing. But you got the code room, especially how these go and how these, destroy, destroy and everything else. Especially how these destroy and these come through and these, come from a different loco of a vote, loco of a Zoe, how everything else goes, especially how these go, because these go Zoe, because the way these come from both sides, so it just goes both Zoe ways. But you got with Mojo, the com room, with Tweeko, and mainly everything else, and just with these whole things, with the Mojos, the Tweekos, especially with this Zoe one, But you got with the Tweeko, with Mojo coming through this and this whole devotion.
S2.E6, baby.
Chest shot gang. CSG baby.
Tweeko mixed this, It sounds cold.
Gang do jewels and the friends keep dropping in my fat spiff. Got so many options. Still ain't got back for the dead that are turning the grave and the bodies are rotten. And you know that my CG's on it. How do you think we flung two in a coffin? Tell them be honest, them man ain't a problem. So many options. Still ain't got back for the dead that are turning the grave and the bodies are rotten. And you know that my CG's on it. How do you think we flung two in a coffin? Tell them be honest, them man ain't a problem.
It sounds cold.
Gang do jewels and the friends keep dropping in my fat spiff. Got so many options. Still ain't got back for the dead that are turning the grave and the bodies are rotten. And you know that my CG's on it. How do you think we flung two in a coffin? Tell them be honest.
Oh, and how you think my CGs is on it? How you think my CGs is on it? And then he said, oh, like, hey, it goes both ways. Like this whole thing, the way that this whole thing is, coming through and coming airing, hey, we got something, the demonic, demonic and, devotional, how this whole thing is coming through. Like he said, how you think my CGs is on it, and everything else got, like, most people got, the disease, and planted, and, all type of, areas, all type of, different diseases and, different, all kinds of, like you're not even, you're just deceased now. Like the whole thing just running around.
The man ain't a problem. Half their team be treated by doctors. Plus, ain't no hitman. B&B is a real hitman in the sleeve. How you get shot on your bedroom's day? I can't lie, that's more than Pete. Saying get socked and they're blaming me. Had the boy then trying to give me grief. They gave me verbal, I said keep it street. Next day TY made bleed. That's one reason you shouldn't give chattings. Another one if you ain't on badness. I ain't got a reason to jewel, but you definitely do your friend brain gain eating bad maggots. I was in jail and I won't do jewels like an and you in the booth as captain. Been dropped, don't know how they manage. Come on now, hop in the ride, get at me. Even the jets made them pour out Henny, so course I gotta do that from the old bill. And how you want justice for she fear I can ever let boy them pat me. Got near Rathman shot. Lol, I know those far from happy. Let me tell you about the beef in Hackney, where my sadly grieving families. We're mixing pagans with Cali, we don't band to shot him in baggies. I really wanna know how he didn't go hell, got and pat me. Got near Rathman shot. Lol, I know those far from happy. Let me tell you about the beef in Hackney, where my sadly grieving families. We're mixing pagans with Cali, we don't band to shot him in baggies. I really wanna know how he didn't go hell, got.
Hey, this is the fall fig, how the whole thing he said with misking, just with the candy, like, ooh, hey, and that whole thing that comes from another thing, like, hey, even this whole thing, like, they're already on some, on some portable stuff, the way this whole portable stuff is coming through, like, hey, and especially how the whole thing, is refusal too, because it gets really refusal, and off of Connect, just off of Connect, it gets really for Fusho and everything else, especially how these, flip. Like, that could be one part of a scene, you be thinking it's a good scene, and then next later it just flips into a whole divorted thing, it'll be a whole different lane porch, especially how these come in with the Sconics,
Lol, I know they're far from happy. Let me tell you about the beef in Hackney, where man sadly grieving families. We're mixing pagans with Cali, we don't band to shot him in baggies. I really wanna know how he didn't go hell, got Ammy on me in the pack that smoke. I'm riding just to feed my demon, my Marjay told me to better myself. So stressful for my boys in Tweeko, hit the blocks and Hitman as well. If you been shanked, that's cool, but you need to jump off. You been splashed up with your girl. And more time you them is amusing, then take the piss out of them and I'm music. I can't lie, shush ain't been the same since I gave him a brutal juicing. Right, that's man's adamant. Invade man block like Vladimir Putin. I hate man music. I can't lie, shush ain't been the same since I gave him a brutal juicing. Right, that's man's adamant.
Ooh, since I gave him the brutal, since I gave him the brutal juice, man, and everything. Like, it's just a bold, interesting, especially with the whole juice.
Invade man block like Vladimir Putin. I hate man that talk about Jews, but when it's time to drill, they're making excuses. They're savaging me, ain't never gonna leave knee deep in the street, get GOT. Tryna send one of them to GOD. Me and bro rip my man's TOT. E6 got DOTs, got Batman skin like DOGs. Gang TOPs to capture more, get UAV like COD. They all wanna know why it's called 8 yet, cause just giving 8 shot views in the 8. And they all know my gang too active, assassinate man even in booty. I'm front in the field, I'm a striker, I'm the suspect that all gets blamed. The man them may sometime blitz on the cool street to catch from okay. I smoke sound with the man them weed on the road, no weed. Not left on the floor to the pyramid speed up, babe, looking like Arsenal Arena. But let me take you to the next day when Sam got bit stop. I don't roll my sleeves up, no. TNA, hella DNA when I school these kids, fuck a teacher. I take trips, fish man down if the blade ain't sauce, don't ask for only. Give it a steam, tell her I'm packing my mash, need someone to stay at home. Roll my sleeves.
Ooh, and they come. Ooh, and hey, the whole thing is active too. Like, and is they got it litty too. They verbal and everywhere. Like, especially how this whole thing comes through and everything else. Like, they really traumatic. Like, active, and they really coming through all kinds. Like demonic things, and however you can put it, and the whole thing, cause they coming through the whole active church. And the whole thing, like, it's just like they on some turf stuff, trying to, especially them, cause they really out here, doing that whole thing, they really out here active, especially how this whole thing, comes from the bomb and cut bomb, like it comes from both, traditions.
Please don't know TNA, hella DNA when I school these kids, fuck a teacher. I take trips, fish man down if the blade ain't sauce, don't ask for only. Give it a steam, tell her I'm packing my mash, need someone to stay as homeless. Give it a steam, tell her I'm packing my mash, need someone to stay as homeless. Fucking homeless, baby.
They didn't came through with this one right here. Like, I don't even know what to put this whole thing right here. But Mojo coming into the whole stretch thing. Like, he didn't stress the whole song. The whole song was and stretch. He just put the song on a stretch purse and everything else. But you got with Tweeko, the Cold Room, especially with Mojo and everything else coming through this one. Especially with this one right here coming through this and everything else, but most definitely check this one out, everything else, but off this demonic one, you got both stance, but everything else and just with this.